Hey guys, what's going on? Shaw here, and today in this video we're going to walk through a horrible Tazavesh streets that my group was able to somehow time on a Sanguine Grievous Fortified week last week. Yeah, enjoy. Alright. Streets 23, Sanguine Fortified Grievous on the Guardian Druid. So we're going to talk about this run, just kind of go through it, everything we did right. We did a lot wrong in this dungeon. There was a lot of stuff that got messed up, and it all kind of started from the very first pull and till the end of the dungeon. We pretty much fucked up almost everything, but we were able to time it, thank God. But this started as a 26. The 26 got ripped on the very first pull of the dungeon just because we didn't line of sight properly and we just instant wiped. So we just were like, all right, let's just go to a 25. 25, we were kind of like halfway through the key, and then we're just like, all right, we're not really on a great pace, let's just drop it to a 24. And the 24 just got thrown out the window. I forgot what happened exactly. This is a few days ago. So we're like, let's just do the 23. Oh, you know what? No, we did the 24. We got to the end of the dungeon. We're like, all right, I'd rather have a time 23 instead of an untimed 24 by like 30 seconds. So we just ended up doing the 23. So here we are. But I think this is a good run to kind of point out everything that went wrong and how you can not do the things that we did and be better. So we are running Nemo Lock, Frost Mage, Fury Warrior, Resto Shaman, and then of course I'm on the Guardian Druid. This is a comp you're probably going to see more often than not. These tend to be the people I'm pushing with currently. So yeah. We are running Reticle and Codex, so this is a key where I was a little more concerned about my survivability. I didn't have my shard yet. I got a shard for my vault actually on the reset after this key. So I now have a little bit better defensive trinkets, but my item level actually is still like roughly the same. I'm like 294, 295, but in this key we're sitting at the 295 mark. We have almost everything upgraded except a belt we can't get our hands on. We're playing Venthyr, Draven. That's pretty much it. So a couple things to keep in mind for this key is our comp. We have a really good damage profile. We have our really good single target from our lock. We have really good like consistent AoE from our Frost Mage, and then we have kind of like a bursty AoE from our Warrior and in smaller cleaves. So this is actually a pretty good comp for this key. We're going to opt to go right side later on in the dungeon instead of going left to do mini bosses, flame dogs, and cats and stuff, and the Triceratops. So here's where the key got fucked right off the bat. So typically in this key, this first pull can get carried by DPS. I can tend to typically use Survival Instincts or Bark Skin or Health Pots or Health Stones or whatever early on this pull. So in the next pull, I can use Incarn, pull a little bit bigger, and we're fine. Our lock is standing right here to try to LOS. There's a few reasons he's doing this. Actually, most of our group should be. We have our Shaman up the stairs trying to LOS, but we were spread. So you should LOS the Radiant Blast or the Radiant Pulse from Zomaz. Our lock was trying to line of sight both Imps and the Blast and walks off the edge. So you'll see him here, watch him here. So he gets his Tyrant out, and then he walks and falls and dies. So there went Tyrant. So we lost all of our big single target damage on Zomaz. So I end up using Incarn in this pull to make sure that this guy dies before he gets a triple pulse off, which you obviously don't want to see. This Hardlight Baton is what I hear a lot of tanks complain about that do a lot of damage. It is true they do a lot of damage. do. Mages can purge it, Shamans can purge it, Locks can purge it. If your DPS can afford the global to purge, I recommend them doing so. They don't last as long and they don't cast them as frequently, but it is a very annoying and hard-hitting debuff for the tanks. For at least Guardian Druids. Other tanks typically can handle a little bit better. So now, at this point, we're like, okay, I don't have Incarn where I normally do, so my cooldowns are fucked, which kind of dictates the pace of the dungeon. So we decide to actually play it safe and just pull this pack by itself now. A lot of people will probably cringe watching this. This is not a pull that I like to do. I hate doing one pack at a time. I hate doing 2 targets at a time. There are very few classes in the game that actually excel at 2 targets. And Guardian Druid has this weird way that their healing scales in larger pools because of our Thrash is uncapped. And our Thrash can give us like more absorption. So the more targets we can hit, the more healing we're necessarily going to do. And that kind of scales into obviously like pulls. So doing 2 target cleaves means that the Guardian Druid can do very minimal healing to itself. Outside of like Frenzied Regen and a little small absorb. So this mob goes down here, the Officer. So then I decide to chain the Infiltrator into the next pull for at least 3 target cleave. Still not great because the idea was to get 4 to 5 targets, so that the mage can always have Icy Veins up. That was all thrown off just because of the lock walking off the edge of the dungeon. The big thing to watch out for here is the Hard Light Baton casts from these mobs. The Spark Burn you can kick, but the Stasis Beam is a little more important, and Hard Light Barrier. Out of all of the casts that are in this start of the dungeon, it's pretty much like Hard Light Barrier, Stasis Beam are equal priority. Hard Light Barrier can be purged, but magic burst classes like Frost Death Knights can oftentimes just throw themselves from the key if they do a breath into a Hard Light Barrier. Threat's always weird without an MD, especially if you're playing Venthyr like I am. Playing Convoke or having like the Kindred Spirits ability is much better for kind of snap threat. Since I'm playing Venthyr, I don't really have those extra abilities, and I'm really just relying on an MD, which I don't have in this key. There's a lot of times where I'll play with a Rogue or I'll play with a Serve Hunter. Nama, our Warrior, actually plays Serve Hunter, so that's normally what he does, but he's been enjoying Warrior, and I enjoy the Warrior too in keys. It just sucks not having a misdirect. A lot of people are saying that tank threat was fixed. It's not, especially for Guardian Druids. And especially without an MD. Like the 16% threat buff that we got last season was decent, and it helped, but it also helped with like having and Woe and stuff like that was beneficial. But now that we don't have it, it's kind of threats. I found threat to be fairly difficult. So this next pull we're going to chain right after the security dies. I have Incarnation rolling, so we're actually going to double this up now. This pull doubling it up is a little scary. There's a lot going on here. There's a handful of kicks. We also need to watch out for these beams, and there's an infiltrator in this pull, so we need to watch out for the frontals. So the frontal's going out. Stasis Beam full channeled on the Demonic Tyrant, so he just lost a lot of damage there. F's in chat for our Locks DPS. Mobs go down, we get a Typhoon to knock them back a little bit. And then we're just making sure we're getting kicks and kiting through the beams without pulling any more trash. The idea is for us to skip this trash after the boss, but in typical fashion, we end up, holy shit, I had a follower mid recording. Thanks, dude, whoever you are. We are going to, here, hold on, because I need to talk about this pull. My whole train of thought was just thrown off. Our lock ends up potting on this, so we don't have invis pot to skip after this, so we have to then adjust our route mid dungeon, which is never a great thing to do if you're not well practiced, or if you don't have other routes kind of built in your head. Luckily, I'm a degen, and I spend way too much time playing this game, running keys, and looking at routes, so I feel like we adapt pretty well on that aspect. Right here, we're going to actually LOS as I pull. This Radiant Pulse is going to come out. If you're LOS, it doesn't apply to your group. On Grievous weeks and on Fortified weeks, this saves your healers so much time. I'm going to tank up next to the wall here because we're going to be able to use line of sight. The DPS can line of sight on that same pillar that they just did. The range will line of sight back here. And the melee can actually line of sight up here on this little pillar, which is amazing, by the way. You can LOS, you can tuck back into here, if you can see that, or right here next to the plant. The only thing bad about this spot is the Rift Blasts are a little annoying to dodge when you have kind of like a wall blocking one side of him. So as you can see, me and Nama are just going to kind of teeter back and forth. And then pretty much after every Rift Blast, there's a chance for him to cast Pulse. We get the Hyperlight Bolt here. And then I think we get the Radiant Pulse. So I go to LOS, and then he casts his Empowered Glyph immediately, and it goes off because no one was in line of sight to kick. So we end up losing our lock again. He's really making this key fun. We end up pulling, but I think that's our only 2 deaths in this key. We might have one towards the end, I don't remember. So we get the kick there on the Empowered Glyph of Restraint, Rift Blast, and then I think it should follow a Radiant Pulse soon. The spell queuing on him is a little weird, and it depends how frequently you're kicking. So sometimes, what I've noticed, he'll either do it right after he does Rift, or it's after the first Hyperlight kick, or if he doesn't do it then you're safe for a little bit. So right there, we got actually a really clean LOS there, followed by a kick. Yeah, this one was really good. And then this boss, it is a 23, but it is non-tyrannical, so this boss shouldn't be too difficult. We have a pretty good comp actually for this, so you can immune the Interrogate for people who don't know. The Interrogate is actually probably the biggest time loss on this fight. It's not really the movement, it's not really the shield, it's actually having a DPS get stunned perma in a cell that you have to run away from the boss to DPS, where you can't really optimize cleave, because the timer for when that player will die in the cage is based on how far the boss has to travel, right? So it's important that if someone has to get broken out, you go far away to give your DPS the most amount of time, but not too far where you can get back to the boss easily. It's a weird thing. So our warrior's going to Bladestorm immune here, which was an excellent play, by the way. And then we can have a Bladestorm immune pretty much every minute. We also have double Ice Block immune. So as long as it goes on either our mage or our warrior, we should never actually have to do the cell. Other things that work, so I think it's magic, if I'm not mistaken. So correct me if I'm wrong. I think Cloak of Shadows can immune it. Icebound Fortitude, it's also a stun, so Icebound Fortitude can immune it if you're a DK. You can also use Human Racial to get out of it if you're playing a human, if that's like the race you choose. Turtle can immune it. Bubble? Paladin Bubble can immune it. I don't think Bop does though, because it's magic, right? Spell Warding, I guess, if you're for some reason running Spell Warding as a prop paladin, you can use it on the player who's being interrogated, but the chance you're running Spell Warding for Zofex in this key is like so small. But yeah, there's a lot of classes that can immune it, so. All mages, right? All mages can Ice Block. Frost is nice because they can double. They can Frost. So she, right there, she blocked and then she Cold Snapped immediately. Or was that the Cold Snap first? Hold on. Ooh, did you fuck up, Kalea? No, Cold Snap was already in CD. Okay, Block was used earlier, I guess. And then at this point, we know that we're going to be able to tunnel. So not too bad. The big thing that I was watching out here for is wherever our lock was positioned is where I was going to cycle around. And the reason you're cycling is because most of the damage that a lock is going to end up doing is going to be from his Tyrant and his minions. So if you're, holding him in the middle of the room and the lock sets up his Tyrant and the shield's facing the lock and the imps, he's going to do no damage, and there's nothing he can do to tell the minions to move somewhere else to do damage. So right now we're discussing, okay, we don't have pot, so let's just pull this and we'll adjust our count later. I end up dropping a pack on the right side. We were going to pull a little bit more in that alleyway, but it's only because it's a little bit easier to deal with than this stuff. This has a lot of kicks and a lot of like magic damage coming at the tank, where the other pulls don't. I thought Spear was down, so I Typhoon there, and it ended up disappearing just because I wasn't paying attention and I didn't get to toilet mobs like I'd like. Toileting is a word that my group uses is when you have an Ursol's or a Spear down and you Typhoon and then they all get sucked into the middle like they're being flushed. It's fucking great. So we're kind of security a little bit. Specialist is still a little high. Stasis Beam is going off. We get a late kick and he gets Giga healing here, dude. I'm so glad Sanguine Week's over. I am not looking forward to when this comes back. I ran like 60 keys this week, so I put in my fair share of work. That's crazy. All right, so now pots are active, so we're going to skip this next pull. We're making sure everyone's out of Grievous. I'm doing a little off healing, and we are going to just stealth right by these Overseers. I'm going to roar here for our group so we can get through nice and quick. Zolgamex, I don't think. No, I might be wrong. It might depend on your comp too. Not worth pulling. I don't think that mob is worth the small amount of bounty that it gives. So right here, you need to be careful. There is a Skulker that's stealthed. There's also one on this staircase here. I'm going to commit Incarn to this pull, and we're going to try to go a little bigger. We want 5 targets, so we're going to grab the Skulker over here. And then there's one over on the stairs who's going to come in a second. There he is. And we're going to try to stack these mobs up. A Kyrian Sphere is going to come down now for this retreat, which is going to happen after the stun, so it's going to get sucked back. Trying to keep mobs as stacked as possible. Do not be inside the circle, and kick bombs. That's kind of the priority when you're going onto the right side. Most of these guys do melee. They don't cast as frequently, so it's a little bit easier to move stuff out of Sanguine. Hence why I wanted to skip that pull earlier, because it's just easier to manage. I think bomb can also be reflected, if I'm not mistaken. I think me and the warrior were talking about that at some point. So yeah, this pull's pretty simple. Now, unfortunately, we got a bad pat because we had to spend time somewhere else. I don't want to do this patrol by itself, but I also don't want to do it with another pack without Incarn. So we're actually going to pull this far pack by itself and just like LOS back. This is a very inefficient pull. Looking back, I regret doing this. I should have maybe saved Incarn for the next pull, but then I wouldn't have had it for mailroom. So it's so weird because like all my CDs were thrown off because of that first incarn in the key. So what I'm going to end up doing now is after this, I'm just going to sit on incarn until mailroom because I typically have it up for mailroom. So ideally, I would pull the patrol with this pack with incarn, and obviously some CDs, but just when things kind of start having this snowball effect, it's a little annoying. So retreat means he ports away and drops a bomb where he's at, so everyone needs to be out of that. Be careful if you're ever taking it on the stairs because it can clip underneath, but it still actually affects the Z-axis. So if you're above or below it, it'll actually still kill you. Tutorial cleave is super inefficient. Dude, I watched this, so we did this run like last Sunday or Saturday, like, I don't know, 4 days ago now or something, 5 days ago. And watching this back today before I started like skipping through it, I was just like, dude, our route is so shit through here. Like, part of it's because of the timing and stuff of like people accidentally using pots and like not having obviously stealth and mistiming in like having to use incarn early, therefore like throwing off the rhythm of the pull or the route. Doesn't feel good. I should have chained this infiltrator, for example. I don't know why I'm just sitting here with single target. I could have easily pulled this patrol with it. I haven't pulled left or right side in a very long time either. We used to actually woe skip to like the mailroom right away pretty much after in last season. So I haven't really pulled this since like the start of season 3. So I'm just like, I remember being kind of scared of this trash, but I know it's more efficient for our group. Yeah, I should have fucking chained. We got a Skulker Pat to come in. He hides out actually like right over here. He pats back and forth right here, so he came in because of proximity. Isn't going to be a big deal. And then, yeah, after this, we're going to basically do a couple things. We're going to start Mailroom RP. We're going to open 2 portals, and we're going to start Oasis RP. Yeah, if we were running a different comp, though, I think we would have went left, because we do have a lot of single target. It's simply because of the Frost Mage and because I'm playing Guardian Druid. I think every other tank besides Blood DK would prefer going to the left-hand side. Other tanks have higher single target or better at like just consistent small amount of like mitigation, where Guardian Druid kind of lives and dies off of Incarn. Hence why we came to the side again too. So Frost Mage will lose out on Icy Veins here after this pull. That pull took so long. We were kind of playing like shit too. Like I'm looking at our damage overall. Like I feel like our damage should be much higher than it is. And I'm not sure why that might be. So I'm going over here to start the RP for and open up the portal for the Oasis. And the rest of my group is going over to the mail room to start that RP. Well, some of them are. Some followed me for some reason. There's also a portal off on the left-hand side here behind me now. And then we're going to go into the mail room. We were debating if I should pull everything out. And we were like, it's Sanguine. I'm like, well, I think it'll be fine because I saved Incarn for a big pull here, and we end up only doing 1 pull, so kind of crap. Also, I'm targeting the Peacekeeper. You can see the frame on the side of my screen right here, this white frame. So I'm getting no white damage here. I'm just getting Thrash and Incarn radiation damage, like from our tier set. So dumb. What a dumb idiot Guardian Druid. The Male Elemental got stuck in Sanguine, so I decided to LOS out of the room until he was out of it. We are good, and then I'm keeping these mobs slightly spread. So this is a great strategy. It's called splitting. You split the mobs to either side of your hitbox, and it typically gives enough room for Sanguine not to hit casters who can't be moved like this Male Elemental. So you just hold them on either side of your hitbox. It's really only useful for Sanguine weeks. It's not useful in almost any other situation, especially when there's like frontals, because if you have frontals facing 2 different ways, like your DPS are fucked. We have a sorter running out. I'm going to get the roar here on the open cage. This is really important, especially when it's a chicken cage. It's like, I think every other cage is chicken. So it's this cage, then there's one more with a strange creature, and then there's one up against the wall, which is another chicken. Strange creatures also are bad because they don't give count. They actually do a good bit of tank damage, but if one gets open, it's not like the end of the world. If anything, it's extra cleave for your you know, DPS in your group. These pulls are like painfully slow. Like I have a much I have like a better route through here that I prefer to run, but it's just like everything got so fucked. Also, Sanguine Week was not great. So I'm gonna Dwarf Shadows behind. I'm gonna grab this Infiltrator back here. He's only worth getting if you need the percent. Don't ever go back there. I've seen pugs in here go back there and tag him deliberately, and it's like, we already have 100% trash and we're doing this pull, and then they pull more. It's like, why are we going to 110%? People are like, well, bounty. It's like, well, bounty doesn't matter. Bounty is a convenient thing for clearing the packs that have infiltrators in it, or if you're able to skip certain packs, but I don't think you ever go out of your way to get an infiltrator for no reason. So it's always frustrating. So, but we did grab this one because we need it for count. Also, one thing I didn't point out at the start is I'm actually running Mastery instead. And the reason I'm running Mastery is because of the arcane damage at the start of the dungeon. Mastery tends to be a little bit better against Mastery, or against magic damage, because you're having a larger health pool with more self-healing and attack power. It also amps your tier set. Tier set actually scales off of Mastery, unlike other things which typically scale off of verse or attack power. Well, okay, it technically scales off of attack power, but versatility is a common multiplier. But I went Mastery for that reason. For slightly bigger incarns, better bark skins, bigger health pool, more attack power, and therefore bigger health pool, more self-healing from Ravenous Frenzy. Not Ravenous Frenzy, Frenzy Regen. Holy shit. So we knocked the Male Elemental right into the middle of the room, and we're going to use him to get big damage on the boss. Even on Sanguine weeks, there is a slight little edge on the circle where you can not be in Sanguine and be inside of the hay circle. So we're going to pull right when he dies. People are going to move in, and you can see right here, I'm actually a little out of it. So right here, I have the buff and I'm not in Sanguine. This is going to allow our lock to pump. So right now it's going to be me and our warrior soaking mostly. Our mage and Palak are soaking close. You want to soak as many as possible on the first one while also utilizing the shield. Hence why we pulled him to the center of the room. Now, the Male Elemental was very difficult to move. What I did is I ran out of the room to get him towards the center, and then I used Typhoon to kind of fine tune his placement. You can do the same thing with like Ring of Peace, Death Grip. Can you really do anything else on Warrior? No. So I'm going to put down a marker on green. This is going to be so my group knows where to go. Fan Mail comes out, so I'm safe to go out into cat form. We're going to get one here. I'm going to try to get to a second one before I have to shift, but if you do shift out of bear form, make sure you are shifting back into bear form before he finishes the cast, because if you're in cat form and he melees you, you will die. Other tanks obviously don't have to worry about this because they're not form based, but I have thrown this boss before because I was still in cat form when he phased. So we're kind of soaking. Ice Block comes out from the mage to do that double soak there. I don't think that was really worth. It might have been, because this fight's going to be pretty short. So we're going to group soak with the Link, the DR. It's going to make us even. Also, my self-healing from Frenzy Regen in a second will help top. I don't even hit Frenzy Regen. What a bad tank. What a bad tank. Who invited this guy? So we actually made the decision to tunnel. So this is we only had to do one mail delivery. We have Tyrant coming up now in like 2 seconds. And then we also have like Icy Veins is still rolling. We have Wreck coming up. So our ability to tunnel here is fine. Once the first package hits, you have about 30 seconds to kill him. There is a weak where I'm pretty sure that actually tells you your time to kill. Like it takes your current DPS and it like actually will like compare to the boss's health remaining or your target's health remaining, and it actually will display a time. I don't have it, but we're pretty good about knowing how much damage we can put out every 10-20 seconds. First item is the drum. We are not going to do double mount strat here because I don't trust my group. So we're going to trade here for the drums, and then I think it goes to Taylor. Yeah, so Taylor's right across the way. And then I think the last one we get is really bad. It's like gem or weapon. I don't remember. So it's the Eye of Valinor, so we're going to actually have to run very, very far for this one. These are probably the worst two because they're really out of the way. Whether it's weapon or gem. So strong arm spawn, I try to get threat on it because once you turn in this last weapon, threat exists. The threat table exists on the strong arms. So I'm trying to get back there. One thing we're going to actually do here is because of routing, I'm actually able to tag in this dealer for extra bounty. And the strong arm now has threat on someone else. I'm going to tag it. And then we're going to try to group up at the entrance. Because we don't want to keep pulling lackeys in. Because lackeys will continue to spawn. You see this like pack over here. Chilling, running around. So we're actually going to commit Incarn to this pull. Not that it's like really scary. There is double infiltrator, but it's really just like we want to get this trash down efficiently. And I don't want to use Incarn in phase 1 of the next boss fight. So Incarn here just made sense. Also, one thing about this key too that I didn't notice until like at the end of the night, because this is actually if you watch my Junkyard video where I talked about this, you can see my Incarn or my Ravenous Frenzy down here. I never use Ravenous Frenzy because I changed a macro to do some testing, and my macro, so this isn't my macro that I normally use. So I haven't been using Ravenous Frenzy all key. Because I was wondering at the end of the key why my damage was so low. Because you can see right now I'm only doing 9k overall, which is like my typical DPS is way higher than 9k at the end of a key. So we have our group coming down. We set up the lock gate. We end up not doing this dealer though. I have noticed there is a bug that I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but if you pull that infiltrator, if you pull this infiltrator here, it actually makes it so my notes don't appear, and then you can't get the buff. Therefore, this boss takes like super long. So I don't recommend pulling that dealer until like the boss comes in and you have CDs or something else, or just ignore him completely. All right, so notes are going to spawn. Our goal is to hit all 4. Well, all 4 sets. And you'll see this stacking buff here. As soon as you hit 10 notes, you will have this big giga damage buff. Giga damage buff. There we go. Those casts going out almost killed her lock. Make sure you are kicking the patrons, hyperlight bolts, and you're also having one person kick the security for the menacing shout. Those are like the 2 priority kicks here. You need 1 melee kick for the menacing shout, and then you need, I think, 2 to 3 kicks for the patron. The casting patron is always priority. The other patrons are kind of meh. They just like throw a drink and hit your tank. They're the ones that spawn on this side of the room. These ones don't matter. You just need to get threat. These are the important ones that you need kicks on. And they go down. We actually are moving a little faster than I thought. And I'm not gonna have Incarn for this next set. Which is gonna be a little scary. I will have Barkskin though. The scariest thing mainly for me is threat, because the warrior likes to zug. They typically have a lot of burst damage at the start because they throw down spear, they pop rack, and then it's just like they're just going to town. And we're gonna hit this. Get a swipe thrash, and then make sure that we're getting threat and everything, and then we're sacking them up in the center slightly. Or trying to, at least. And then the big thing is the disruptive patron will cast a teleport. You want to interrupt that with a stun. Stun, shout, knock, whatever it might be. It's going to come out here. We get the Felguard stun on it, followed by a roar, just in case. And yeah, we're just zugging this trash down. Warriors are really good at this fight, because the phases are about 45 seconds apart, a minute apart. And with their cooldown reduction plus spear, like, they're always going to have CDs for every set. So they typically go down really fast. When this buff expires, that's when these guys start casting Enrage. So teleport gets off, which is bad. Going out for a kick, because, oh, we got a Shadow Fury on it. Which is not great. You actually would rather kick it, not stun it out there. Rowdy is going off. I go for the Soothe on it, I think, right? Oh no, I already soothed one of the other guys. This bolt is scary if it goes off. When they're enraged, they will one-shot. I think I ended up soothing the menacing shout dude. The big man. Alright. We got our 9. So this would be a good time to pull in the infiltrator if we wanted to. We're not going to. I have Incarn, so I honestly should have, but we don't need it for percent. We ended up doing something a lot less efficient. I don't remember how much time we had left on this key. I think it was like 2 minutes. This is such a slow route. Suppression Spark, we're waiting in for the last second, then we're using our notes to reset our buff here. So we reset back to 40 seconds. Our Shaman didn't reset, our Mage didn't reset, our Warrior didn't reset, only our Lock reset. So we're going to be losing out on a good bit of damage. It's really important. I say this every time I talk about this key. It's super important you hit your notes. You stay inside of this barrier. Like when he sucks everyone in, you stay stacked. Obviously move if there's green swirls, because the green swirl will one-shot you. And then when there's a second left, he spawns notes. And if you have the 3 center items, you slide out of it. So that's why DPS take these. The tank tanks the center one, which makes you jump in the air. So you'll see it maybe right. So you'll see my notes. Here's 1 note, here's 2 notes. The third one is spawning within the last second. And then when that happens, you can reset like this. And yeah. it's kind of scary because you have to kind of trust. It's obviously scary on like weeks like Quaking. Obviously, if there's like rotten food being thrown, it's kind of scary. But this is a 25% haste and damage buff. So, pretty good. We're going to leave this dealer. We're going to lock gate up. This is a common strategy that I think a lot of people know about now. It saves a little bit of time, right? Instead of having to like run all the way around, you just boop, lock gate right up. And now we're doing a little bit left, like a little bit of trash left. We're going to go for 2-target cleave again, like the fucking idiots we are. Again, we planned on originally skipping all this stuff, but I just had to like make an adaptation. Like I had to adaptation. What the fuck? Learn to English, you idiot. So we're going to pull the Peacekeeper onto Zofar. It is Sanguine Week, so we have to be super careful, but we figured everyone's going to be in melee, so the Peacekeeper's not going to be that bad. We're going to get a little extra cleave for the Frost Mage on Icy Veins to get a little more CDR than she would normally get. And then just faces Power Kick at the wall. And we want Zofar to die first. It's very, very important, because if he gets stuck, if Sanguine drops underneath him, he's going to heal for a bunch. Then I'm going to have to move, and then I could possibly get Power Kicked into a Shock Mine, Power Kicked down into trash down below. It can quickly wipe our key. Peacekeepers don't charge if everyone's within 10 yards. You'll see our Shaman occasionally will jump up on top of this thing. It's because small classes like Vulpira, Gnomes, Goblins, they can't actually see. So here's our Shaman up on top. He's going to stay up here until he gets linked, and then he'll drop back down into the little cubby so he doesn't get dragged. More often than not, with a comp like this, it's safe to assume it's going to be melee and range. If you're coded as a range, you'll be paired with a melee, unless your group is all range, or if your group's all melee, then it's kind of inconsistent. Well, it's not inconsistent. It's always going to be on a melee, just you don't know who it's going to be on. So Zofar goes down first. As soon as he dies, his shock mines disappear, so we're safe to move. We just need to make sure that we're all moving at the same time, because we don't want him to charge into Sanguine. Also, everyone should be in melee. Our lock is staying out. Okay, there we go. And then we will do one more pull, and that should give us enough % for the key. So we right now have just basically 2 bosses left in the trash ball. I'm putting down purple marker. That's where we're going to be pulling to. Oh, this is where it went wrong in the 24. We ended up doing this pull right here. Like, we did these 2 Peacekeepers with these 2 guys, but we kept them here, and this Pat came in. Like, our Frost Mage sent a Frozen Orb. I pulled away, but the Frozen Orb stayed, and the mobs walked into the Frozen Orb, and it pulled. That's where it went wrong. Yeah. I remember. It's coming back to me. So we're waiting for the patrol to move. I'm jumping down. Everyone's going to run to purple. I'm going to tag in this far pack, and we're making sure that our Shaman is going to get the kick on it, on the Spark Caster first, right now. And then we're all going to stay stacked on purple. And then that's pretty much it. Like, this is a pretty easy pull to pull off. You just want to make sure you're knocking or hitting these flank shields. I just, like, while I'm watching my video, I kind of hate my text, my scrolling combat text. Like, it is cool. I think it's good looking. I just think it's inefficient. Like, I don't care what damage I'm doing. I might get rid of it, I'll be honest. So I'm going to wait for get the knock here on Sanguine. I knock. We just need to make sure that Peacekeepers aren't going to kill our group. Knocking's pretty scary there. Our Shaman's moving out, which is not great. Yeah, you want to make sure you're like we had like minor spreads, and if you're again 10 yards away, especially once the tank starts moving, so it's kind of my fault, but like it's Sanguine Week. And then here's our last % right here. And the reason we're pulling this guy is because the boss's RP takes like 20-30 seconds to do. So we figured while we're waiting, just kill the Infiltrator. We can either pull this Infiltrator into boss, or we can just reset the boss, and like I guess we'd end up waiting anyways, but I've done that before. It's like you pull this while you're starting RP, and then if the boss resets, you can either wait or you can go back and clear more trash. But at least the boss is activated. I don't remember what we end up doing here. Alright, so Infiltrator goes down. We actually... I remember this. So we were short, like, of the smallest %. So there is a dealer right out here. I'm able to pull it without triggering any of this other trash. And then our lock sets up a gate for me. So this was not intended. And this is like where the route kind of was like a little fucked. But knowledge of the dungeon, not like tooting my own horn, but just like knowing where mobs are and like what could help you like fix a % or something, or a fucked up route, is really good. So I knew this Infiltrator is over there. I had another one in mind too, but that guy I didn't know if the cats were going to be there actually, but we were able to just pull this Infiltrator by himself. I think the boss also ended up resetting too, so like we had to wait for the boss. So like it wasn't the worst thing in the world, but it's not the most efficient thing to use, like for time's sake. This was bad. Never stand in the doorway. Putting a sleep pool in the doorway is really bad. So our lock was our lock should have just been inside. To be fair, I probably could have dragged him into but the sleep pool's a little sus. Infiltrators heal. I could maybe should have committed survival there. I don't know. It's so hard to minimize the healing as a guardian druid on those guys because they typically just always hit you for a big number, and I like to now that this boss is scary on a 23, I could have probably saved survival. I could probably use it to minimize the healing on the last guy, but I like having it for this boss just in case I need to stand in something. We get sucked in, we run out. Our lock had some pretty good damage on Alcrux here at the start, so we should be good. In a perfect world, you kill them before the next one comes out, but sometimes that doesn't necessarily happen in some groups. We're moving together, and then right after this, I'm going to start inching my way over to this corner here. So this corner is really a good spot to tank him in, and I'll show you guys why. Hopefully, I don't remember. This might be the run. I've been trying so hard to get good footage of how to do this fight. So Purification Protocol goes out. Always prioritize the melee as a healer. If you're going for the spell, prioritize the melee so they can actually do damage. Range can just spread and continue doing their DPS rotation, where melee, the person with that has to run out and just stand out and not do damage. Spear goes down. Venting Protocol, it gets past the Gluttony, gets passed to our warrior. He's going to be able to just eat up all of these orbs as soon as it ends. Look at this. Look at all these orbs that are trapped in the wall here. And that's the reason you tank him in this corner, is because the orbs get stuck. So not only does it allow your range to actually free cast the whole fight, but you also almost instantly get 20 stacks. So now our warrior is going to be doing giga dam. And the reason I'm backing into this corner here is so when he does this flagellation protocol, it does this weird thing where it kind of it charges the tank. So it minimizes the room between the tank's hitbox and Ashlight's hitbox, which gets him into the corner. So as soon as he actually charges me, here, let's see, I'll play it all the way through and you'll kind of notice him jump forward at me a little bit to tuck him into this corner. So we're facing this way. He's going to do his flagellation protocol right now. And he kind of jolts forward a little bit. And then I kick the cast and I'm going to back out slowly here. You'll see me kind of start wiggling in a second. Oh, I can't fucking see. It's good to also do it during a cast. Don't get stuck in this corner though during the venting protocol, because then you're going to just keep getting knocked up against the wall. You won't be able to get out and it's going to kill you. So you move out. Our lock is going to be able to soak a good bit of these. The next boss is coming. Look at all these orbs in the wall. The lock's going to eat him up. I'm going to get Ashlight back in. He does his flagellation. He charges to me. We kick. Then we kill him in this corner before he does his venting and before Goldfuse does her Whirling Annihilation. And now we're just keeping her right here. So you're only going to notice 2 orbs coming out instead of 5, which obviously is going to be very nice for the range players. And we're basically going to almost every time you get Gluttony, you're able to just step into Ashlight's hitbox and almost instantly get 20 stacks. Now you do need to use a defensive because he has an aura that actually hurts you a lot. But you'll see here, our lock goes from 0 to 14. And there's actually more here too. So he moves back in. He should be at 20 stacks now. I'm going to move her a little bit closer. And the player with Gluttony, don't go chasing these orbs around in the range. It's better to stand in melee. Now our warrior needs to get out here because of the Whirling Annihilation. He's coming out. Unfortunately, I think it goes to our mage. I can't remember. So yeah, orbs are getting stuck here. So you step in, you eat him up. He's at 16. He can step in one more time. Oh, he didn't go in all the way. So it goes to our mage, and our mage doesn't do this right. So here's what not to do. So she's chasing an orb out here. She needs to be in melee so it doesn't hit the melee players. She steps in, but then she stays here. She stays here and then gets hit by the Whirling Annihilation, which is not good. So I'm going to step in quickly, try to get some of these orbs, and for some reason it's glitched out. Sometimes the Gluttony bugs, so it's not eating any orbs. Look at this. They're going right through me. If someone dies with Gluttony, it's really bad. So step in, step out. Don't stay in, just go in, eat the orbs, get out. But when I say get out, don't stay in melee so the melee don't have to dodge orbs while also trying to DPS. So yeah, pretty good. We have only 4 minutes though, so this is going to be pretty tight. We lost a good bit of time with our poor routing choices. I will not be running this route again in the future, I don't think. I don't recommend this route unless your group's like really coordinated, and we just like, we were winging it kind of. Here's the worst part. Right here. Watch our lock. Our lock goes up. Look at this Felguard. There's a Felguard right here. Felguard goes running off this way. Felguard, see you later. But that Felguard wasn't going to anywhere in particular. He was going to make friends. And here's where our key kind of went to shit. Okay, it already went to shit. We're standing here, we're chilling, we're waiting for our P. Infiltrator pops up. It's evade bugging. It's targeting our lock. I was like, okay, maybe we somehow just got an extra infiltrator. Enforcer pops up, who is enraged. And then 2 more mobs snap up here. There's a Peacekeeper. And then there should be a Sparkcaster in a second too. So yeah, we made the decision to wipe. And our Shaman is going to onk once everyone's safe. And res us. So coming up here with like 4.5 minutes or 4-ish minutes left. And then all of a sudden only having 2 minutes to this boss, it's going to be super fucking tight. So right now we're kind of like, fuck locks. Fuck warlocks. Don't ever run with these trash players. We have to kind of go fast. We have Lust on pull. We have most of our CDs too, so it's like not really a big deal, but going to a 23 fortified boss when you're not like fully geared, like meaning like a lot of us are like 290, 292, 294. We're not 304 yet, 3 or whatever we might be in the future. It's kind of scary. We're basically at this point praying that we don't get Shuri spams, which is sometimes a bug that I don't know why it happens, but there's a chance for Shuri to rapid fire at the end where he goes like Shuri, he ports, he Shuris, he ports, he Shuris, he port, like he just keeps doing Shuris. And it's almost a guaranteed wipe. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's based on his health percentage when you push him. I don't know if it's based on when you kick this double technique. I don't know if it's like, I don't know what it's based off of. I don't know if it's based off where you tank him. I have yet to figure it out. If anyone knows why he does Shuri spams at the end of the fight sometimes, and sometimes he doesn't cast Shuri at all, please let me know, because I have no fucking idea. And it drives me nuts because I have failed much higher keys than this and way more important keys than this because of that bug. So right now we have a lot of ways to jump over. I get the first kick, and then our warrior's going to get the second kick. And now we're just kind of chilling. I don't remember if we tunnel in this quadrant or if we do one more Shuri jump. Okay, it goes Shuri. We go square circle, quick, and then I think we tunnel in this quadrant because we have Tyrant coming up in 8 seconds, and Tyrant pets, and this is true for, actually I think it's just actually Tyrant pets. Your Tyrant won't jump through portals. It obviously also can't do damage over the wall. So once it comes out, whatever quadrant you're in, you have to stay in or the lock isn't doing any damage. So we're going to just kind of back up into this corner, make sure we're not getting hit by Shuri, and we finish the key with 25 seconds left. Okay. F. That was not a fun key to watch or to be a part of. We did time it. Streets is one of my more favored keys than some other instances. Cough cough. Upper Karazhan. But this was an incredibly painful route. It was inefficient. It was slow. We obviously made a lot of mistakes, kind of trickling down from the start of the key with losing DPS, having to kind of shift CDs around, obviously then using our pots where we plan on invising and then not being able to do that right away. So yeah, don't fuck that up. We did talk about this at the start of the key. We're like, hey, we're going to invis at this point. Don't use your pots. We also talked about that line of sight strat worked in all of the other keys on that first pull. And of course in the 23, the lock obviously walks off the edge. That didn't happen in the 26, 25, or 24 up to this point. But in the 23, of course, he walks off and loses all that damage. So not the cleanest run. Not proud of this run. But I wanted to show it off, talk about it, the mistakes that we made. Because I think it's important to know. Hopefully you guys learned something. If you notice anything interesting, like how I didn't hit Ravenous Frenzy the whole key, let me know. Because I obviously don't know why I didn't hit Ravenous Frenzy. And I will catch you guys all in the next one. Take care.